Listen to him. He knows everything.
Get set for World War III. This forthcoming attraction will be as big as World War I and II combined, and will go on for 100 years, just like the last of the Lord of the Rings movies. But instead of being about some gnome's journey to boil a ring, this epic will be about the struggle to boil some rice, or potatoes, or anything that's edible, because the effects of climate change will pit tribe against tribe as the world runs out of food. In the meantime, producers are doing their bit by making what food is still available as appetising as possible by cloaking dodgy second-rate fare in the labels of Class A fair trade organic best cuts. People, like me, who are in the thrall to the supposed benefits of healthier, greener comestibles, are being ripped off by unscrupulous suppliers who are mis-selling shoddy goods as top of the range. Taking cheap vegetable oil, dyeing it green and calling it extra virgin olive oil, for instance. Selling battery eggs as free range and charging twice the price. Knocking off farmed fish as wild at a giant markup. Sometimes it's even worse. Big-name alcohol brands are being counterfeited. Vodka, which looks like the real thing, is actually cheap spirits high in methanol. Drink enough of that and you'll go blind and die. One too many for the road and you'll never play the guitar again. Unless you're Keith Richards. He's looked like he'd been pickled in the stuff for years, but he's now prized his eyelids open long enough to start a spat with his other half, Mick Jagger. Like two skeletons in a biscuit tin, they've been going at each other recently. Keith says Mick's a control freak. Mick says Keith's a baby. Back and forth like a verbal tennis match, played by two twiglets with squashed pumpkins for faces. What a waste. There's people in the third world who'd walk miles for a couple of twiglets and a squashed pumpkin. When the Stones finally hang up their hats, we could serve them as a starter for a family in Ethiopia. Not much meat on them. What there is a bit tough, but they're quite tasty, as they've all been thoroughly smoked.
Groovy.
They are actually saying that it's going to be the end of the Rolling Stones. There will be no more final tour. Did you see them this time round?
I'm not really a fan of theirs.
Not really a fan of theirs. Right, you're busy listening to your Fisher-Price music.
Yes, I'm
polishing your skateboard. That's
I've listened
right.
to your podcasts.
Oh, by the way, that's right. I'm glad you mentioned that. If you, oh, never mind. Podcasts available, lbc.co.uk, LBC Plus. Press that button and all will become clear. They've been one of rock's most productive partnerships for 40 years, but cracks are appearing in the relationship between a clean-living Mick Jagger and his drug-ravaged bandmate Keith Richards. And there's a picture of them both, and Mick Jagger looks, well, he looks like a groovy dad, really. Keith Richards, on the other hand, well, it doesn't actually look human. I can't think of anybody that I've ever seen that looks quite like that. He looks like his own Muppet that's been left out into the sun and melted. Whispers circulating that the Rolling Stones' touring days are numbered as a war of words is driving a wedge between the group's two leading members. Well, you know, I'm not surprised. I saw the Rolling Stones a little while ago, and the only person who was actually doing any work on the stage was Mick Jagger. He was the only man who actually looked like he'd shown up. The others looked like as though they were projections, like 3D. It looked as though mentally they were still asleep in the hotel, but they were just going through the motions. You know, I mean, they only get paid about £1 million a night. Hardly enough to wake up for. But Mick Jagger was incredible, throwing himself about, right from the moment he got on the stage. There was no warming up. He must have done the warming up backstage, because he exploded onto the stage. It was quite surprising, actually, how much he just sort of, he came out of the traps like a Duracell bunny, where the others sort of crawled on, almost as though they were liquid and were reconstituted. You know, like Smash. In recent months, after spending much of the past 3 years on the road together for their Marathon Bigger Bang tour, as it lasted 3 years, that is incredible. Can you imagine 3 years living in hotels? I mean, they'll be very nice hotels, right enough. They'll have the top suites. One time, Mick Jagger was in the presidential suite at one hotel. I think it was in France, perhaps. And the actual president came to town. I think it was George Bush. And his people called Mick's people, and they said, the presidency, he would like the presidential suite. And Mick said, no, you can't have it. And so the president didn't get the presidential suite because Mick Jagger was in there. Don't you like that?
I'm sure they gave him a deluxe somewhere.
Oh yeah, they gave him a junior suite, which is just a slightly bigger room with a sofa in it.
Absolutely.
Now the Stones frontman, 64, has taken a dig at Richard's forthcoming autobiography. Asked about the in-progress book, Sir Mick said, "It will be interesting." Asked to elaborate, he quipped, "Well, I would have thought you'd actually have to remember your life in order to write about it." The growing resentment between the pair is, say insiders, rooted in Sir Mick's eternal energy and drive, compared with Richard's often shambolic state on stage and off. Now, I haven't seen the movie, and when you're at a gig, the sound is generally pretty terrible, so it's hard to tell who's doing what, because it's just a wall of noise. But what occurred to me was that Keith Richards is actually a really average, if not ropey, guitar player. He's just not particularly good at all. Neither did I think was Ronnie Wood. Occasionally they'd hit a right note, but really it was as though their hands were animatronic. They were actually asleep, but propped up at the back. It was just really bizarre. Mick Jagger, meanwhile, was throwing him about the place like that. Asked to elaborate. Oh, I did that bit. 2 months ago, Keith Richards branded his bandmate vain and a power freak. The guitarist, 64, who had brain surgery 2 years ago after falling out of a coconut tree, says he is a power freak and there's nothing he can do about it. He said, "Mick's a maniac. He can't get up in the morning without knowing immediately who he's going to call. Meanwhile," says Keith Richards, "I just go, thank God I'm awake, and wait for 3 or 4 hours before I do anything." Richards and Jagger, the creative force behind the Stones, have known each other for more than 50 years, having been at primary school together in Dartford in Kent. They've fallen out from time to time over the years, one notable dispute triggered by Jagger's decision to accept a knighthood in 2003. I'd forgotten about that. Jagger reacted by saying Richards was criticising him like a bawling child who didn't get his ice cream. Fans reacted to the latest war of words on an unofficial Rolling Stones website yesterday. One wrote, "The race is on. Keith slags Mick, 197. Mick slags Keith, 2. There was other things about music in the news today. There was this ongoing rumble about Madonna, Mr. Madonna. You know, the chap that the Beatles wrote a song about? Mr. Madonna. Everybody. He's complaining that people are coming over here, he says, in that sort of mock Cockney accent that he's got. When Madonna finds out that he doesn't speak like that he's a posh boy who's got a reverend for a dad. Oh no, that's the DJ, isn't it? Well, who's Mr. Madonna's dad? He's a lord or a sir or something like that, isn't he? Or a viscount, something like that. Which makes his flat cap Cockney geezer act a bit comical, really. But Madonna, being American, she can't tell that it's like a fake accent. "You all right, mate?" he goes. Having been to a public school and brought up, you couldn't be more middle class if you had a Volvo in the drive. But he's been complaining that people are coming over here, buying our houses, he says, living in a house that his American wife, who's come over here and bought her house, bought. Guy Ritchie has complained that English natives are being priced out of the London property market by wealthy foreigners. Well, he's got that right. In certain respects, that's actually true. It doesn't matter what part of the market you're at. We are being priced out by people who are, well, people, essentially. There's great waves of people who come in with tons of money and buy up London. In the 70s, it was the Arabs who were all buying up Hampstead and Knightsbridge and so on. And then it's at the moment it's the Russians. If you go into a top-class estate agent in the centre of town, there will be a Russian speaker because that's where all the money is. They've employed Russians. And essentially what they did to gain their money is they just nicked it off the Russian people. They bought or were given essential Russian businesses at a fraction of their cost, and then they sold them on at giant markups. And then they came in and bought, Knightsbridge, Kensington, Chelsea, that sort of thing. Guy Ritchie's complained that English natives being priced out of London property market by wealthy foreigners. The 39-year-old film director, was he still doing that? Oh, well done. who shares a £7 million Marilyn house with his American wife Madonna. Have you seen their house? It's actually really hideously ugly. Oh, it's probably lovely on the inside, but outside, it looks a bit like, a stumpy office block. It's horrible.
Maybe that's to put off potential burglars.
Yeah, quite right. Yeah, the ones on either side actually look nicer. He says it's now almost impossible to buy a house in the capital. He told Empire magazine, house prices don't go down, they just go up. Well, where he's looking, yes. The nations of England are sort of being left behind because the big money came in, and if it wanted something, it bought it, and it made a bigger fortune in doing so. And as anyone who's tried to buy a house in central London knows, it's almost impossible to do so unless you have 10 million quid. He's speaking for the common man there. He says, it's changed culturally so much, there's so much money here now, that it seemed like there was a film to be made about that, and that's what he's just done. He's made another Cockney geezer gangster movie, like we need another one of those. Oh, blimey. He says they have a unique way of doing business, the Russians, which is they don't haggle, they just ask how much it is, and then they pay twice as much, which leaves everybody out of the running. Starring Tom Wilkinson, Gerard Butler and Tandy Newton, Rock and Roller is a rerun of the Guns and Geezers style of his 98 hit Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, and he's been looking for another hit ever since, doing the same thing over and over and over. But really, that's the only kind of movie that we make in this country. Well, not entirely true. We make floppy-head rom-coms with, what's his name? We make ladies in bonnets with their emotions in corsets, and we make Cockney geezer gangster movies. Only those three. 7:45. LBC Travel with Alan Joyce.
Thanks, Nick. In the centre of...
Hello!
We have a How Low auction running at the moment. It's for a Hewlett-Packard laptop. It's got the lot, this baby has. It's got Intel inside, a large hard drive for storing, it's way big enough for videos and music, movies, photos, everything you would desire to carry around with you, really. Wireless capability. It's got a DVD drive. You can watch your movies on the go. CDs. It also plays. It has a webcam. It's a reverse auction, this one. To enter, text your bid in pence. With your mobile phone, text LBC to 88821. If you're going to bid, say, I don't know, £2.11, you would text LBC 211 to 88821. Bids cost £1.50 plus your standard network rate. Lines closed 7 p.m. Friday, 25th of April. Bidders must be over 16. See lbc.co.uk for full terms and conditions. Good luck. Downham, first call. Hello, Neil.
Hello, mate.
Neil.
I've just everything. I was born in 1968, and I've always been told people were talking about the Rolling Stones and the Beatles, and I generally listened to a lot of my parents' stuff. And I never found them particularly good, to be honest with you. I thought there was a lot better groups in the 60s, like the Kinks, many other groups like that. I don't know why maybe they caught the zeitgeist at the time or whatever, but I don't know why everybody seems to think that these people are brilliant. Because if you look at the Beatles, hardly any of them can sing. I mean, if they were actually here today and a new band, I don't think that they'd get very far in Pop Idol or whatever.
Oh, come off it,
or
Neil.
Or the Rolling Stones as well. I mean,
Right.
it's a raucous bunch of banshees. I mean, the only song that I like out of the Rolling Stones is Angie, and that was the one that they didn't scream about.
Right. I often am a bit perplexed about the popularity of the Beatles, because you listen to some of their albums, and it's not brilliant from start to finish. I mean, there are the songs that you know, and they're cute.
It's just bland.
They're cute pop songs.
Yeah. I mean, they were supposed to be the transition from the crooner to the, I don't know, to what happened in the 70s, but they were sort of like a transitional band. But I listened to a lot, obviously I've listened to a lot of their songs, but it just sounds like a lot of people that have turned up and just singing for a few quid and gone back home again.
Right. And you were born in 1968, so you...
I was.
Yeah, so you sort of missed the era that you're talking about.
Yes, but I mean...
But then I was born in 1960, so essentially I did too.
Yeah, but I grew up listening to the my parents' record collection, and unfortunately a lot of that was in there. But then I found a lot of other things. I like Jerry and the Pacemakers, as I said, the Kinks, which I found much more evocative and much more interesting sort of music to listen to, especially as they've written it all themselves, and they were much better musicians. And you got Jimi Hendrix, You got Eric Clapton that was around the yard. I mean, there was so much more going on. Why people still, even to this day, hark back to the Beatles and the Rolling Stones as well. It beggars belief as far as I'm concerned.
Right. Well, if only you'd made your argument without mentioning any other band names, like Jerry and the Pacemakers and the Kinks, I don't think...
Yeah, but I support Liverpool, you see, that's why.
Right. Okay. Well, that seems a bit unreasonable to choose your music on the basis of where they come from. The Beatles, of course, famously come from Liverpool.
Yeah, sure. I'm not basing my choice on that at all. All I'm basing on, I think the Beatles were a good band, and I think the Rolling Stones were a good band as well. But the longevity that they've enjoyed, I just don't understand that.
I get it. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. And I think that part of the the Rolling Stones haven't released a record that's troubled the imagination since that Night record, something about Night. They had that controversial video where someone got shot on a bridge.
Right.
Undercover of the Night. That's the very thing. Undercover of the Night. Since then, really, no one has listened to a new thing that they've made. Nobody's really interested in that anymore. They've gone stratospheric on the basis of their back catalogue. And the reason that people like hearing all that old stuff is because that was the music that they first latched onto when they were teens. And
do you not think that that's propagated? The parents of the... That's why there's young people in the audience as well, is because when the young people were growing up, the parents were, in the 70s, mid-70s, they were listening to that sort of music that their parents were playing. Therefore, that they tend to take an affection towards that because it's something that has been inbred in them.
Well, quite possibly they also might be being dragged to a Rolling Stones gig as a punishment for something they did that weekend.
Yeah.
All right, thanks very much, Neil.
You're very welcome.
0845 6060 973. Yeah, the reason that the Rolling Stones are still so popular is because most of the audience, and having just seen them, most of the audience is sort of my age or older. I mean, there's a smattering of younger people, but then I think the reason for that is that, let me go through the arguments one by one instead of starting one and then starting another at the same time, is that people latch on to the music of their teens, and it's almost as though they mentally stay there for the rest of their lives. I mean, for a little while there, I was keeping up with... I was buying... when I was living in Leeds, doing this on another radio station, I was buying £100 worth of CDs a week. A week. All new music, all stuff that you've never heard of, and I was just picking them off. Oh, that looks interesting, that looks interesting, I'll have that, I'll have that, I'll have that. And I was keeping up, as a teenager would, fascinated by all this new stuff. But after a while, I think, there's just not enough hours in the day. I can't be bothered anymore. And what I'd actually like to hear is Straight Shooter by Bad Company, or The Smoker You Drink by Joe Walsh, or, something by Pink Floyd. Things that I know are good, rather than trawling through 10 albums to find something that might be interesting. And what comes to mind quite quickly is that everything's been done under the sun. One of the reasons that the Stones is popular now with a younger audience is because the music that they're buying from new bands is just a rerun of the stuff that the Stones did, and Velvet Underground especially, whose influence is much bigger than their actual sales, were doing in the 60s. It's just all the bloomin' same, over and over and over again. And nothing ever changes. I mean, there really hasn't been a musical revolution since, well, you'd have to say, since techno. And that was, 87? Musical revolutions usually come around every 10 years. We had one in 57 with Elvis and the whole rock and roll thing. And then in 67 with hippie and free love and psychedelia. And then in 77... there was punk. 87, techno and, the whole dance, happy, smiley craze. 97, nothing. 2007, nothing. We haven't had a musical revolution for 20 years. It's just been a distillation of everything that's gone before. Winding around in a tight little circle, chasing its own tail, music has. Isn't that bizarre?
I would say you were wrong. Just a little bit.
What?
Because 95 onwards you had Britpop. And
oh, please, Britpop. get lost.
That was slightly different.
No, it was not.
And
Brit pop was the Kinks, it was the Jam, it was the Who, it was the Stones again. I mean, Oasis were the wannabe Stones, crossed with the Beatles. Britpop is a perfect example of everything that I just said.
They were. I grant you, they are a carbon copy, and current indie music is a carbon copy of 60s music. But coming on from the Britney Spears type music that was going around in the early noughties, we're now listening to a lot more music made by people who play guitars. I think there's been a revolution.
No, there has. Well, a revolution would imply that there's something new has happened, but it's not new. It's just a reheat of what we've already had. So I rest my face. Blurting out arguments that are completely nonsensical. Never mind. Better luck next time, eh? Madonna, on the other hand, has created a bridge over all of those types of music. I'll talk about her in a minute, because Caitlin Moran wrote an excellent column about her. Just one moment. This is LBC 97.3.
Hello.
Hello, Atlanta. Hello, Steve.
Hey, Nick. I want to take issue with your whole idea of musical revolutions.
Go on, then.
And I just think they take place much more slowly and on a smaller scale than you're picturing.
But they don't.
Well, like you said, the punk revolution took place in 1977.
Well, 76, 77, yeah.
You know, but 77 was like the time when everyone figured out posthumously that there had been all these great bands that by then had already sort of broken up or people died or whatever. And I think, you know, and look at a band like the Velvet Underground. I mean, they were a revolutionary band, yet they weren't part of a collective musical revolution.
Well, I would suggest that they were. There was 1967 Velvet Underground, right? 66, 67. They came to prominence, and they were part of the Underground, which was a revolution in itself. The psychedelic underground. Yeah, they were part of a movement.
No, they weren't.
Still I'm right.
They weren't a psychedelic band.
What?
They were more of a. They weren't. They were more of a New York, you know, like they weren't a hippie band. They were more of a street drug, a heroin type of band.
Well, yeah, that's
a LSD type of band.
Yeah, okay, I'll concede
Jimi
that.
Hendrix and the Grateful Dead and Janis Joplin. You know, that was the sort of thing that was going on in the 67 era, and they were sort of like completely different from that.
Right. Well, I don't dispute that.
I think they were more part of like an evolution, which was like them, then the MC5 and the Dolls and the Stooges, which became punk, which like became like Nirvana and stuff like that in the 90s. And
well, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that, but in 1966, everybody was, the music was completely different to 1967. Of course, there is a slow evolution. But you could also say that there has been a revolution every 10 years since 1967. There has been a definite musical change.
Sea change?
Yeah.
No, I'm just sort of thrilled at the opportunity to pontificate about alternative music on LBC that I'm just sort of a little excited.
Yeah, you sound excited, Steve. Is this you excited?
Yeah.
Okay, well, calm down, mate. I'm going to send you some decaffeinated coffee in the post, all right?
Thanks a lot.
Okay, cheers, mate.
Bye.
There's this article about Madonna by Caitlin Moran. She wrote in the Times just the other day. And when you think about people who have survived, there isn't really anybody that has survived quite as well as Madonna. I mean, the Rolling Stones have survived, yes, but there's been variously 4 and 5 of them. And they haven't, as I said, produced any music in the last... Well, when did Undercover of the Night came out? I mean, that was their last big single, wasn't it? That's got to be... That was maybe 20 years ago. Still, they're the biggest concert draw in the world, but not even for Undercover of the Night, for things that for most of the tracks that they were doing in the mid to late 70s. That's what people go and spend 250 quid, incredibly, on a ticket to go and see them. This is Caitlin Moran's column about Madonna. When Madonna's 4 Minutes went to #1 on both sides of the Atlantic, that's the name of her new single, went to #1 on both sides of the Atlantic this weekend. It marked her 23rd top 10 single, her 13th #1, and 25 years of zeitgeist bothering since she first released Holiday in 1983. Good grief. 1983, 25 years ago. I can remember seeing that on Top of the Pops first, can you? Scary. Though she has been referred to habitually as the Queen of Pop since the mid-80s, when she first displayed her power by making a generation of women consider lace gloves and rah-rah skirts over capri pants as legitimate pub wear, I will personally spend hours explaining why she is still fundamentally underrated. This is Caitlin Moran. Pop is a genre of quantum rapaciousness. So fast is the turnover of ideas, so intense the images and so jaded the public's palate, that 1 year at the top in pop is equal to 3 in rock and roll, where all one has to do is be yourself. I think there's something to be said for that. That's actually quite true, isn't it? I mean, pop is by its very nature very ephemeral and throwaway. And so to be successful in pop continuously has almost never been done. And you think of anybody else that's lasted 25 years, not in rock, that's different. That has some depth, it has some substance, there's meat on rock. But pop, the frothiness of it and its disposability mitigates against any longevity. Good grief, I can't believe I just said that. Write that down, Raj, that sounds like I've got a brain. I'm going to pause for a moment there. I'm stunned I just came out with that. Where was I?
Talking about longevity of pop habits.
She says, by this calculation, if it's 1 year in pop is equal to 3 in rock and roll, by that calculation, Madonna is enjoying her 75th anniversary of global supremacy, having lapped any putative contender for the throne, Cyndi Lauper, Bjork, Kylie, Janet Jackson, Whitney Houston, long ago. Just the sheer effort that's gone into Madonna's hair alone over the past 25 years is breathtaking. There isn't anybody. Can you think of anybody else that's lasted as long in pop as Madonna? And you're furrowing your brow there, Victoria. You're desperate to prove me wrong about something.
I would say Michael Jackson.
Oh, yeah,
Simply
he's doing really well these days.
Well, no, not these days. You said 25 years that Madonna had.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson started when he was 4 or 5. So if you take it from when he started to, I would say, late 80s, 87, when Bad came out.
When things started to go bad, yes.
Yep, exactly. So from what? He was born 50 years. 63 to 88, that's 25 years.
Yeah, I think you're right there. Yes. 2 people in the history of recorded music. There isn't anybody else. I can't think of anyone. Anybody else? 0845 6060 973. Is there anyone at all? I mean, David Bowie has lasted a really long time. But he's had pop records, but his career is not, he's not a pop star. He's a rock star.
Some people would argue that because Cliff Richard has the highest selling amount of calendars, that's 50-odd years he's been going.
I wish I hadn't asked the question now. I suppose you're right. Do you remember when Channel 4 did that, who's sold the most singles ever? They did, when they've got a slow evening, they'll stick on one of these 4-hour-long programmes that's just a big list. And they did this thing, who's the biggest selling artist in the history of the British pop business? And they went through everybody. They went through the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and, all the usual suspects. And then, as they usually do, tease you across the break. And you're thinking, well, who could it possibly be? Who's the number one? There isn't anybody. And I'm sure that everybody else that was watching that show were racking our minds, thinking, well, who is there? They've had the Stones, they've had the Beatles, Elvis. There isn't anybody else, we were thinking. And then they came back and they said, hold on to yourself, it's Cliff! The biggest selling artist of all time in this country. Isn't that shocking? You're shaking your head in bemusement there, Raj.
Shocking.
It is shocking. It's embarrassing is what it is. I mean, America can safely say that it's Elvis. And precious few people would have a problem with Elvis. Wildly overrated, of course. And as soon as he came out of the army, Well, it would have been good for his career if he'd got shot and never came back, because the embarrassment that ensued sort of put a stain on his career forever, really. I mean, the fat Vegas years, please. But before that, the pelvis wiggling, youthfulness, wannabe black years, absolutely fantastic. He took black music away from black people and sold it to white people, which is, it's basically, essentially what we've been doing ever since. That's exactly what the Rolling Stones did. They took American music and made it more popular by selling it back to Americans. In fact, there's very few people in English who sing in English bands that don't sing in an American accent. Oasis, I suppose. But then I start to run out. Everybody, when you sing, it's actually quite difficult to sing in an English accent. You really have to try.
I think, deviating slightly, scientifically, it's not actually possible without forcing yourself to put on the American accent. You can't sing. There's no accent that comes out when you sing. So if you hear someone singing with an accent, it's put on.
When you sing, you don't have an accent.
No,
that's actually not true.
No, it's because when your vocal cords move, when you're singing, it's not the same as if you're speaking. So if you're speaking, you can hear your accent quite clearly. But when you sing, your vocal cords change slightly or move to the point where there shouldn't be any accent. So any accent you hear is it's an emphasised one.
I suppose there's something in that, but when you listen to football crowds, you can tell a Liverpool football crowd because they sing with a definite twang. There is a certain Liverpudlianness about them singing. But perhaps it's not singing that they're doing, they're just shouting. So you might be right there, Raj. It's in much the same way as, people hear Americans singing, and they hear British people singing in an American accent, and that's how they sing, because that's what they've learnt. That's what sounds good to their ears. In much the same way as you go to Holland, and people there speak English with an American accent because they've seen it, because they've learnt their speech from MTV. And this just sounds just plainly weird when they do that. But, you might be right. You might have something there. Write that down, Raj. 8:15. LBC Travel with Will Gowing.
Thanks very much, Nick. There are still delays.
Everything is going extremely well.
How Low auction is up and running. It's for a Hewlett-Packard laptop. The auction ends at 7 o'clock tomorrow evening. It's a top of the range. It's got the lot. There's basically nothing that they have left out. It has an integrated webcam, wireless capability, a giant hard drive, Intel chips, a DVD rewriter. You can also play CDs on there. It's got the lot. If you would like this for significantly less than you'd pay in the shops, pennies, in fact, it's one of these reverse auctions. The person with the lowest unique bid wins. To enter, text LBC plus your bid in pence to 88821. If it was a bid of, let's say, £1.05, it would be LBC 105 to 88821. Bids cost £1.50 plus your standard network rate. Lines closed 7 p.m. Friday 25th of April. Bidders must be over 16. See lbc.co.uk for full terms and conditions. Good luck with that. Here's a call in Wolverhampton. Hello, Andy.
Hello, Nick.
Andy.
I'm surprised at you, with your music background, that you couldn't think of bands or singers in bands who sing with a kind of regional accent.
Well, if I sat here and thought about it, if I wasn't actually doing a show, then I'd be able to, take some time.
Well, I didn't even have to think, because I thought straight away, you said Oasis, but there was a kind of whole glut of Manchester bands, weren't there? All like your Stone Roses and your Smiths and all that, and what do you call that? The one from Hull. It was the House Martins, then it became something else. He's got his accent.
The House Martins.
What did they become?
Painful. Awful is what they became.
No, what's the band called that he became? Oh,
Beautiful South.
Yeah, Beautiful, right, yeah.
Ugh.
So there's loads of them. The old guy in Blur, he gives it old Colchester accent, doesn't he? And Pulp, I didn't even have to think. I'm surprised, and I agree with what you say about, because I go to football, and you can hear the other, because I'm Derby and we're always getting beat, so you hear the opposition fans.
I'm so sorry.
You hear them all singing, and you're right, they all sing in their regional accent.
Yeah.
So I can't believe it's put on. It must be a hell of an effort.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yes. Yes, you're quite right. If you think about it, you don't even think about it that hard. There are a lot of people who do sing in English accents who are English.
And
However,
does that mean even the strong American accents being put on, like country and western and all that? Because it's still an accent you're hearing, isn't it?
Yeah, but I'm sure that they actually talk that way.
Yeah. But Rod said that scientifically, any accent is kind of... It's not natural to sing in one.
Right, well, Raj doesn't know everything because he's not a talk show host.
Ah, fair enough. And I was a big Smiths fan growing up, still am.
Yeah, who isn't?
And one of Morrissey's many fantastic quotes is, "There could never be another Madonna," and how right he was.
Yeah, well, there will eventually be another Madonna, but we don't know whether we'll be dead by the time. There's always somebody who comes around who's the exact carbon copy of somebody who's previously been around.
But as you say, to go on for all that length of time, well,
it's amazing.
Sure that couldn't happen again.
Well, yeah, maybe not.
Because it's all here today and gone tomorrow now.
Exactly, yes. I think the bands who have gone through and who are like the elder statesmen of the musical world must be so pleased that they went through and did their bit, made their money when the only possible bootlegging was somebody to record a concert with a little tape record player and then put it out as a cassette and sell it in Camden Market. And the bands that are coming up these days, of course, well, they might never make a penny.
I was going to say, do they
ever
make anything?
Well, I really don't know. I think it's come down to now that they can't. The type of artist that just sits in a studio and releases records was never going to make any money. They're forced now to go out on the road and do show after show after show, because the appetite for live gigs is increasing, not decreasing.
I may ask one more thing.
Go on.
I'm amazed that Rolling Stones tour has been going on for such a long time. Is that the longest ever, or is there one of these kind of big rock bands that have...
I don't think anybody has been on the road.
I know Iron Maiden went for some sort of ridiculous amount of time, but that seems
3 years is really
is it? I mean, is it continuous? I mean, they obviously have a few
no, I think they take breaks. I mean, they're obviously not doing a show a night.
No,
but I think they have been almost continuously on the road for something approaching 3 years.
And presumably, Mick Jagger does that, kind of, as you described it, every time?
How he does that? I mean, for a 20-year-old, that would be exhausting. And he doesn't just come on and, wiggle a bit. He throws himself about.
Yeah.
Like he's doing a marathon every night. No wonder he's thin.
Well, no, he doesn't lose his rag with the rest of it, unless they're just happy for him to get on with it, and he's happy to be the...
Well, I'm sure he's happy to be the man in the spotlight.
Yeah.
But if I were him, and I think that I've read in, not that I know him or have any idea what I'm talking about, but I've just read several times that he is a bit disappointed, let's put it that way,
I should say,
with the fact that he's the one that's doing all the work. Yeah. And the others just sort of show up. And
going full circle, I can bring up the band I absolutely abhor, the Arctic Donkeys. He sings with his regional accent, doesn't he? I can't. I know you don't like him either. I can't.
Well, it's not that I don't like them. It's just that to me, every song sounds exactly the same. It starts off with one song, and then they insert the chorus of another in the middle. Like all of their songs, they change in the middle for 8 bars, 16, whatever, and then they go back to the original thing, which is song like that. And it's I don't really.
I've tried really hard because I don't want to just. You can't say I don't. It's terrible. Like people say, I don't like the Beatles, or I don't. But I've tried. I've really tried.
Right.
Either I don't get it, or.
Well, yeah. Well, if everybody liked something, then it's almost certain to be the worst of its type.
I guess so. But there should be one bit you like in everything, shouldn't there? Really.
Well, how about "You Look Good on the Dance Floor"? One of the great pop songs of all time, surely.
Yeah.
There you go. Thanks, Andy.
Nice one.
0845 6060 973. Let me just get to the end of this Madonna article. There's not much more to go. So we ended with her saying that she has really overtaken any of the contenders for her throne, and all of which, when you say their name alongside her, seem a bit silly, really. Cyndi Lauper, Bjork, although I think Bjork is a tremendous artist, Kylie, good grief. How on earth has Kylie Minogue become so successful? She can't sing, she can't dance, can't write songs. What can she do? I am mystified by that woman's success.
Prance about in gold hot pants.
In hot pants that would look trashy on a woman half her age. Yeah. I don't get it. I really, I mean, her songs are tripe. What's the appeal? I am mystified. She says, on the one hand, what Madonna has done in terms of being female and a female artist is astonishing. Although the benchmark for all achievements in pop music will probably always be the Beatles, in many ways Madonna's intentions and impact on Western culture have been bigger. The Beatles, for instance, didn't do it on their own. The Beatles didn't do it in heels. The Beatles didn't have to overcome 2,000 years of the patriarchy before they left the house every morning. And even at their most socio-politically daring, the Beatles never displayed half the balls that Madonna did between 1989 and 1990, first screwing Pepsi over with the Like a Prayer, where their £5 million endorsement deal effectively allied them to a video in which Madonna kissed a black bleeding Christ in a field full of burning crosses, then releasing her sex book, in which she admitted, against all the taboos of our culture, to having sex with a pitiable albino rapper Vanilla Ice. Paul McCartney has never had sex with Vanilla Ice. But while Madonna's socio-sexual, political, cultural influence is gigantic and intractably embedded in the literal and mental makeup of every Western woman over the age of 18, just like Elvis is for the guys. Oh, I don't know there. Do you feel a little bit of Elvis in you there, Rog?
Absolutely not.
Get up and wiggle your hips for us. Go ahead.
No,
Curl your lip
again.
while you're doing it. Madonna's prime purpose is ultimately pop music, she says. In any given year, Madonna has worked as a bellwether for the pop climate. Her imperial phase came when FM pop was at its peak. She went quiet during the years of grunge and Britpop, and then went on the ascendancy with Ray of Light in '98, when she caught a new wave of dance pop ideas from Daft Punk, Massive Attack, All Saints and Air. This explains why, despite the single debuting at #1, her new album Hard Candy has been received as second-rate. Now in her 75th pop year, Madonna is stopping and catching her breath a bit, but let's face it, on past performance, you wouldn't bet against her kicking everyone's arses again next year. That's actually absolutely true. There isn't anybody that you can think of that's had such an impact, and that she did it as a lone woman is really quite extraordinary in the macho sexist pig world of modern music. I mean, she must have had to fight for every single thing she's ever done against men telling her that she shouldn't do that and she can't do that, can't be done. You won't get away with that. It must have been at every step she had to fight. Well, what an extraordinary woman. And that she has kept control completely in that world is, well, it's just amazing. Can you think of anybody else that has achieved that much against the odds? I mean, Cliff Richard, Christian, white, middle class, English. That's like being born with a winning lottery ticket in your hand, isn't it? So there's no great stretch for him. Plus, uncontroversial, a bit like a safe Elvis when he started out. He had everything going for him, so it's been he just got on the cart and it went down a gentle slope. Almost no effort required. Madonna, on the other hand, was climbing the rock face up to where Cliff started her whole life. I really love you, Madonna. I feel like hanging around her house. Come on, Raj, let's do it. Get a notebook. Just pick up a newspaper. We'll get her to sign it. Or she could sign my breasts.
I've been told I'm not allowed within 100 yards from the air.
I think I know where she lives. Yeah, Madonna, I know where you live. It's in a rubbish part of town. Why a person with a bit of money would want to live there is a mystery. This is LBC at 97.3, your 24-hour pop music station. This is LBC. It's 0845 6060 973. It's 8:30.
3.
Affirmative.
Yes, he's right, that fella. It's Primrose Hill. Peter.
Oh, hi, Nick.
Hello, Peter.
All right. I was thinking about this business of American accents in pop music
yes.
and rock. No, I accept that Mick Jagger sings in what he imagined to be a kind of Tennessee drawl.
Right.
But then he speaks in what he imagines to be a Cockney accent.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, bands like the Hollies and the Animals and all those bands that followed the Beatles also did the same thing.
Yeah. As did every rock band in the 70s, really. I mean, you could come up with a list of bands that don't sing in with American accents that are British.
Well,
however, you couldn't think of any American bands that sing in an English accent. I guess that's the point that I'm making. That is, it's often your default setting to sing in an American accent, or it certainly used to be. I think the bands in the 70s, they really did do that. It's almost as though they were.
What I was making,
Go on,
Nick, is that the Beatles, strangely, most of their canon of work is actually not sung in American accents, or not particularly. Some of the songs are, but most of them are sung in either a completely neutral accent or in a Liverpudlian accent.
Yeah.
And they were the first people to do that, which is what led me to them in the first place.
Yes. Yeah, I think you're right there. It's almost as though it required a little time before British acts had the confidence to sound British, because all this new music was coming over from America. You know, rock and roll was essentially an American construct. That when it got here, we thought to be playing that kind of music, you had to either be or sound American.
But additionally to that, also the Beatles, I think, were instrumental in introducing us to a lot of very good American music, like Tamla Motown, for example. I doubt if we'd have heard so much about Tamla Motown if it hadn't been for the Beatles.
You have to explain that one.
Well, they covered some of their songs, but they also promoted them. They sort of brought them onto the stage, if you like.
Right.
Well, in their interviews, and they loved the music.
Yeah.
And they sort of introduced it, I think, to Britain to a large extent.
Right, really? I didn't know that.
I think so, from my memory.
I mean, Tamla Motown was so fantastic that it's hard to believe that it wouldn't have crossed the 3,000 miles or so to get here had it not been for the Beatles.
No, I think they promoted it heavily, and they loved it as well.
Yeah, well, good for them. But it would almost certainly have, something that good wouldn't have stayed within the confines of America.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
But I think they've played a very big part in introducing them to us.
Right. Well, there's something else that we've got to be grateful to them for.
Yeah. But the American, some of them, the Hollies, for example, what was the lead singer's name? Alan something. I
don't know.
Clark. His cod American accent was so hideous that I just couldn't warm to that band.
The Hollies, no.
No. And the Animals, same thing, really. They just put it on so hard.
But I think that it is almost, as you suggested, that it took a little bit of time for Brit acts to get confident enough to sing in their own accent. However, I would say that throughout the whole of the 70s, all those Brit supergroups, Led Zeppelin, the Stones, I'm trying to bring to mind how Roger Daltrey sings. There's a certain
a bit American, but not so much.
And like Paul Rodgers of Bad Company and Free and all of that, they all were kind of. It was almost as though to be British wasn't cool enough to play rock music. You had to aspire to be American.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, thanks very much, Peter. Cheers.
Another thing.
Oh, go on.
Just about Cliff Richard.
Yes.
His audience is old ladies mainly. So what's the relevance?
Well, they didn't used to be. I mean, when he started out, they were screaming at him, weren't they? Youngsters, they were.
Yeah,
it's just that he's retained exactly the same people in his audience. Yeah.
He was young then, but most of his big hits since then, certainly since the 70s, have been aimed at old ladies, and they do very well. But it's not really relevant to pop culture, I don't think.
I'm not sure that's true at all. Just because old people buy the music doesn't mean to say it's not pop.
I'm old myself. But it's definitely an old lady audience.
Right. I don't dispute that, no. OK, thanks very much, Peter.
All right.
0845 6060 973. How many Cliff records have you got in your collection there, Rog?
Too many to count.
Too many to count. Yeah, that's what I would have thought. Sheffield. Oh, Jessica.
Hey, Nick.
Jessica.
Don't have a go at Kylie.
Kylie? Well, I mean... well, go on, defend Kylie to me.
For most people that are in their sort of late 20s, Kylie's quite an iconic figure.
Why?
Not for her music, not for her movies, really just because she's a bit of a survivor. I mean, it's an awful thing to say, Nick, and I like Kylie a lot. But this cancer thing that she's had recently, yeah?
Yeah.
It's good that she survived that, because I think people are really on her side because of that.
No, the people were on her side way before that. I mean, her success hasn't increased or decreased because of that news.
No,
it's irrelevant.
I mean,
I should be so lucky. I mean, she's just come out with the most awful dirge in over her entire career. And, talking about Madonna, by the way, I mean, if ever there was a Madonna wannabe, she's it.
But I think Madonna's a little bit different. She's slightly harder to identify with because she's taken a very different route. I think when she was Kylie's age, she did the kind of things that maybe Kylie should be doing now. But Madonna's transgressed all that kind of thing. And now she's an idol, but she's not really someone that women would like to be like. Whereas Kylie is highly identifiable. I'm very glad that she survived her cancer.
Well, yeah, me too. But I mean, you don't believe that PR. The people in show business aren't actually like that. That's all public relations.
No, but if you put all that aside, Kylie, in regards to PR, is right up there, way beyond Madonna. Madonna's gone too far. She's become this kind of person that women look at and admire, but they don't really want to be like. Whereas Kylie, I mean, I'm 27, and I think people in my age bracket identify with Kylie. She's managed to change herself a bit like Madonna does, but Madonna's gone too far, whereas Kylie has had a few setbacks, and she survived them. I mean, it's a horrible thing to say, Nick, but if Kylie hadn't survived her breast cancer, probably she'd be a bigger idol now than she is.
Well, I mean, all artists sell more once they're dead, don't they?
Yeah, but in the context of things, Kylie's got a lot more going for her than Madonna has, and a lot more people identify with Kylie. Now, interestingly, Kylie hasn't survived in America, whereas Madonna has.
Right, well, I think the big difference is that Madonna is an actual talent, whereas Kylie is just another anonymous pop starlet.
Absolutely, Madonna is a superstar, but she's quite... she's on a different planet to what people can identify with.
Well, I think the thing with Madonna is that, well, first of all, she writes much of her own material.
Yeah.
She has great control over how it sounds, whereas I get the idea with Kylie, she just shows up, the director of music, whatever it is, tells her, right, you're singing this, sing it like this, and then we'll change it around and produce it, such that it could be absolutely anybody singing it.
Absolutely.
It's just another identikit to silly dance pop song.
But it is Kylie, and they've managed to manufacture her. So
well, there it is in a nutshell. Manufacture her.
But she's accessible to people, and she sings okay, but not brilliantly. She looks very nice, but not beautiful. Her life is okay, but not fantastic.
Right. So her popularity is down to the fact that in every given respect, she's okay.
Yeah, but that's what people identify with. Most people would rather go with okay than unattainable. And Madonna is a different kind of person. She's supremely talented, and she's a show person. She's a much better kind of performer than Kylie is. But if you asked 100 women who identified most with Madonna or Kylie, 99.9% would say Kylie.
Right, well, I identify more with the guy who brings my post in the morning than with Mick Jagger, but it doesn't mean to say that I would rather be the postie.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't go and see Kylie. I wouldn't go and sort of buy her records.
Right.
But
Well, I'm
if
glad
she
to
was
hear
on
it.
the radio, I wouldn't turn her off as quickly as I would turn Madonna.
I would
see
shout
Madonna-
I would shout at the radio before I did it,
Yeah, I know that.
and then I'd turn it off.
Yeah, Madonna is someone that is a superstar but unattainable, and therefore she applies to kind of a certain percentage of the population, mostly gay, whereas Kylie really is a sort of quite a role model. Almost.
Get lost.
No,
Madonna's audience is mostly gay, and Kylie's isn't. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, I'm saying there's a balance there, but most women, if you said who do you identify with most,
Right.
Kylie or Madonna, they would say Kylie.
Yeah, because they're okay. They're not,
Yeah.
doing fantastically well.
Well, do
Yeah.
you think Madonna's fantastic?
I think she has done fantastically well
Yeah.
on what God has given her,
Yeah.
because she essentially can't sing a note, really. I mean, she did that Live 8 thing, and it was just flat out embarrassing.
But
It's almost like the summation given to Fred Astaire by his teacher at the time. He said, "Can't sing, can't act, can dance a little."
Yeah.
Now, you could say exactly the same of Madonna, except that she sings worse, acts worse, and dances a lot worse than Fred Astaire.
But Madonna and Kylie have got, they've got a lot in common.
Right, I'm sorry, but Kylie Minogue is for shaven-headed 30-year-old gay men who should know better and 12-year-old girls.
But she's
Why the two groups should like the same kind of music is a mystery to me that no one has ever explained.
Well, let me explain.
Okay, go on.
She has managed to identify herself with a certain percentage of the population, i.e. women, probably from 20 to 30, and Madonna has not been able to do that because she's older and she's talented, more talented than Kylie, but the message is not the same. Kylie's got a message and that will give her another 10 years.
A message?
Yeah.
Well, can you sum that up in a sentence?
Yeah, well, she survived.
Is that it?
Yeah, I think her cancer's done her the world of good.
What an interesting concept.
I'm happy she's alive.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, absolutely. Of course. Thanks a lot, Jessica.
Okay.
Cheers, my dear. Ta-da. Are we persuaded? How about you, Victoria? Who do you ally yourself to?
She's on the phone, but I'm
What?
going to say Kylie on her behalf.
On her behalf. Righto. 8:44. LBC Travel with Will Gowing.
Thanks very much, Nick. In Chelsea.
Would you mind telling me what this is all about?
It was interesting, Nick Ferrari talking to whoever he was grilling about the teachers' strike. I mean, the two things occurred to me. The first is, as I was saying yesterday, how stupid is it to go on strike in the middle of the week? You have to go to work on Monday and Tuesday, and then you get Wednesday off, and then you come back for Thursday and Friday. That's just, that's a lack of joined-up thought there. A classic schoolboy error. Strike on Friday, then you get a long weekend. I mean, that's just daft. I mean, they weren't out there on picket line, were they? They didn't have to actually show up. So they could have done anything with their day, but they chose a Wednesday to do it. I just don't understand that.
It's Thursday.
Huh? It's Thursday today, yeah, like I said, Thursday. So that's even worse. So they have to go back to work for a day. Ridiculous. And the second is, what on earth do they hope to achieve by going on strike for one day? That's going to achieve nothing. Was that going to bring the government to its knees? That'll teach them. One day, who's even going to notice that's in the government? No one. If you go on strike, it's either all or nothing. Just a day here and a day there. I don't understand. I don't get it. Explain that to me, Rog. You can't. Sky Heroes season is on at the moment. Whether your hero is Clint Eastwood or Jimi Hendrix, you can enjoy them all on Sky. And to celebrate, LBC are giving you the chance to win Sky Plus for a year, including a Sky Plus box, a mini dish, installation, and a year's free subscription to Sky World, which is Sky's top entertainment package. We'll also give you a 32-inch Samsung HD LCD flat-screen television. Coming up on Sky Heroes season, the international cricket on Sky Sports and UEFA Champions League on Sky Sports. To win this prize, make sure you're listening to Nick Ferrari at breakfast all this week here on LBC 97.3. Nick Ferrari from 7. Here is Chingford. Hello, Dave.
Hello there, how are you doing?
Good, thanks.
Yeah, I don't understand that teacher strike either, but I think they can only do one day because that's all they could fit in between all the school holidays. No, I'm just ringing up about this Kylie Minogue business. I just do not understand this fascination that people have got with her.
I suspect that people aren't actually that interested. She just has the most fantastic public relations people around her that have kept up the interest in something that is patently not interesting.
Well, she is a one-trick pony, isn't she?
I don't think she's even got one trick. What's the nature of her trick? Singing other people's songs in the style of other people.
Yeah, I mean, at least Madonna's got a little bit of edge. She's tried a few things. She was very good early on, but she's failed. She's picked herself up. She's done something else, you know. And I think, you know, she's got talent to a great extent. I think sometimes it's been misused, you know, where she's fallen flat on her face with things. But Kylie Minogue, I just do not get it. I mean, I don't know about you. You said you shout at the radio. If I had a gun, I'd shoot it. Because to me, it's just a saccharine type of pop,
right?
That does absolutely nothing. But they're not even memorable, half of them.
No, well, the only one that is memorable is one of the most annoying songs that's ever been released, and it's what I Should Be So Lucky, Lucky, Lucky. I hate that song.
I know. I would be very lucky if I didn't hear her again.
Yeah, ever again.
I
that's
should
right.
be so lucky.
I think the thing that is, I guess I am actually annoyed by her, but the reason that it's annoying is, this is, throwaway pop that hasn't been thrown away. It's stuck around.
Boomerang pop.
Yeah, that's right.
Boomerang.
Yeah, no matter how hard you try and throw it away, back she comes again.
It's just like a pig with a top hat on. You know, it's still a pig. You know, it doesn't matter what you do with it. You dress it up. It's still rubbish.
Yes.
And you cloak it in all this stuff, and people buy it in droves.
Yeah.
And I suppose a little bit of jealousy as well, because I think, wow, you know, I wish I could, you know, you could
fit into those hot pants.
Like that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I've thought that too. Yeah.
But I don't think I'd look that good in the leotard and the feather. No, I don't think I could pull that off.
No.
I really don't. But no, I just don't get it, and I'm with you. To me, you know, it's not talent. It's right place, right time. She jumped on the back of a soap that she was in, and it's carried momentum.
I think without Madonna, there would be no Kylie Minogue, because whatever Madonna does, Kylie Minogue tries on, 5 years later.
Yeah, I mean, she's the semi-skimmed Madonna.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it is. Madonna will do something and will be cutting edge. I mean, a book, Sex, that she brought out in the early 90s.
Yeah, I remember it well.
Right? That was about, then what happened is Kylie Minogue sort of aligned herself again with Michael Hutchence and got a little bit edgy, and that wore off. Then she aligned herself with Prince, and that wore off. It's always this, try that, but it's always the same. And at least with someone like Madonna, she has a go at things. It doesn't always work, but there's a talent in there. There's a songwriting talent.
There's also, apart from the talent of actually what she actually does, you'd have to say that there's a talent to just keep ahead of the game all the time. I mean, that must be incredibly hard.
I think it's also to like second guess as well.
Yeah.
Your audience. I mean, I think, you know, if you went, you know, I think if you and I actually went to a Madonna concert, we'd think, I wonder what we're going to see.
Right.
If you go to a Kylie Minogue, you think, I know what I'm going to see.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. All right, thanks very much, Dave. All right, cheers, mate.
Thanks a lot, mate. Bye.
0845 6060 973. It's a stranger thought occurred to me. Actually, maybe David Bowie is her male equivalent. Let me explain that before you start coughing up your coffee. Not as musically talented, of course, almost no one is. I mean, is there a single a solo artist that has as good a back catalogue as David Bowie? In fact, is there an artist of his age that is still as vital as he is now? I can't think of a single person of his age that has gone through the business in the same way that he has, whose next release would be as eagerly anticipated as his. No one's interested in the new album by the Rolling Stones. At all. No one's interested in the new album by The Who. They just put one out. Anybody buy it?
No.
No. I'd go and see The Who, and, relive memories of seeing them in 1977, one of the greatest live acts of all time, because, Roger Daltrey can still sing, and Pete Townshend can still whack a tune out on that guitar. I mean, there's a tremendously underrated guitarist there. But no one has retained his vitality, his currency, not currency, his the sense of being current that David Bowie has. And so, in that sense, David Bowie is the male version of Madonna, or rather, it's the other way around. But Madonna, of course, and I'm not saying that they're equal musically, and I've said it once already, but I'm going to say it again, just in case you didn't hear me say it the first time. That would be silly, of course, but there is no other single artist that's lasted as long and has remained as vital. I double dare you to name another. There isn't one. There's artists who have been bigger in their time, Elvis, and then you start to run out. But no one who has kept it up, because being in show business is like keepy uppy. It's like no business I know. Here's one in Pimlico. Hello, Lisa.
Hi there. How are you?
Good, thanks.
I totally agree with you about David Bowie. By the way, I think that it's basically all about having an original thought and being creative and original, which is exactly what Madonna is. At least she might not be the best artist in the world, but at least it's original, whatever it is she's doing, whatever it is that she's yabbering on about, or yoga, whatever it is. It's original. And I switched on the radio to hear your previous caller saying that Kylie was a role model and someone who British women sort of aspired to be like. And I just thought, that's the problem with this country. They're aspiring to mediocrity. There's nothing original about Kylie. It's just like she's just one of those empty Russian dolls that's just all painted on the outside.
Right.
Completely vacuous. It's like a marionette puppet. And it's so annoying. And she's just milking all of this sympathy and all of this. She's so lucky. I cannot understand how she still has a career. It's beyond me.
It is mystifying, yeah. For somebody with so little to give, she's been giving it and giving it for as long as anyone can remember.
I mean, in terms of aspiring, what actually does Kylie have to say for herself? What does she stand for? What's her whole point of, why is she performing? What
You're exasperated, Lisa, but you put it better than I could have. I think everything you just said is absolutely right. She is vacuous like a painted doll. And like a Russian doll, when you look inside, there's nothing there but another smaller version of her.
And I worry for the fact that people can come on, or, it was just what your previous caller was saying that really distressed me. Because, that women identify with her. I mean, first of all, women by their very nature will never like a woman who's better than them because it makes them feel inferior.
Really?
So, yes, of course. I mean, that's the reason why, what's her name? Sarah Jessica Parker, for example, is so loved because she's very unattractive. And Kate Moss as well. It's women look up to women who they feel they can be
right
in a parallel universe.
Yes.
Madonna is kind of like superhuman, and it's just too much.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
She's back into like a star of the old school who's on a pedestal and untouchable. Yeah.
Right.
Lisa,
right.
It's been a pleasure talking to you, but I have to go because here comes the news. Thanks very much for that. Okay, cheers, my dear. 0845 6060 973. If you'd like to join in, this is LBC 97.3. In Tech Club in association with Cineworld Cinemas.
You're wondering what it's all about, and I can't tell you because I don't know myself.
So I've been talking, I don't know how I got onto this, but seem to have been talking about Madonna and Kylie for a good little while. So I'd like to throw some other things in there. How did we get into this?
I think we were talking about Madonna to begin with.
Lady Madonna.
Yeah, and then I don't know how how Kylie came into the mix.
No. But there were a couple of things on the news that sort of mystified me. The first was the Chamber of Commerce and Industry has come up with this figure. The £44 million was lost yesterday by the teachers striking, and some civil servants struck as well. Who was that? That didn't go very well then, did it? Some civil servants went on strike, and it was so badly reported that nobody even noticed. How disappointing for them. They thought that they were making a stand, they were going to really upset our lives, to make a point, and no one even knew that they weren't at work. Which gives you the thought that, well, perhaps we don't need them. It's like show business. Never go on holiday. If you're in the civil service, don't go on strike unless people are going to actually notice that you're gone. Otherwise, they think, well, there's a potential saving right there. Who did go on strike? The civil servants. It must have been somebody. But as they said it on the news, £44 million was lost. How they come up with these figures, nobody knows. They just think of another and double it. They just plucked it out of the air.
I imagine that was lost through people not working, surely. Taking time off to look after their kids.
Yes, but when they come up with this stuff, it's absolute nonsense. Because, say you didn't go into work yesterday. Does that mean that what you would have done yesterday will now never be done? Of course not. It just means that you will pick up the slack today. Because in an 8-hour day, you really work for, less than half of it, let's be honest. You get in at 9 o'clock, you're absolutely exhausted because the trip in has been terrible, you stayed up too late last night, you can barely keep your eyes open, and until you've had a little sit down and stare out the window and your third cup of coffee, you're not feeling right with the world. And so it's at least 10 before you actually start work, right? And by work, I mean you check your emails, and your emails, and your emails.
Boring!
On and on and on they go. What a giant waste of time emails are. In fact, there was a suggestion that emails are actually costing us more in money through time wasted at work than that figure of £44 million. I wonder if I've got that here. I've been carrying that story around for ages. The emails are the great time waster of our lives. Maybe I've thrown that one away. Every time I come to the point where I want to read a story, I've been carrying it around for so long, I just have dispensed with it already. Never mind, press on. And then there's lunch, and then there's the half hour before lunch when you can't think of anything other than, oh, blimey, come on, you're mentally screaming at the clock on the wall. And then you come back after lunch and you're exhausted because you've just eaten too much, and you barely do nothing during a working day. And so taking that day off doesn't mean that what you would have done on that day will never get done. It's silly, of course it will. It'll just get done by the end of the week, just like it would have done ordinarily. So, in a sense, you don't lose any money at all. This figure that they pull out of the air every time anybody takes a day off, or we have a bank holiday. Oh, bank holidays just cost this country £2 billion in lost... Rubbish. Of course it hasn't. Companies aren't going to go bust because somebody didn't come in on a single day. The work will just get done by either that person the following day or somebody else who's sitting next to their empty seat.
What about the revenue not taken from people topping up or transport costs, and also buying petrol for their car, perhaps?
Right, well, that's also rubbish. I mean, when they say, Oxford Street was shut because of... a little while ago there was, security alerts and shops were shut, and they say, oh, well, because of this, of course, Oxford Street's lost this amount of money. No, they haven't. The people will just come back tomorrow. When there's a tube strike, oh, well, there's London's stores have been hit by the following amount of lost revenue. What nonsense. People aren't going to stop buying clothes and food just because they couldn't come in on that one day. They'll just come in on another day.
Yeah, but it's still a day's lost takings, isn't it?
It will it will get made up.
It's not going to get made up in the next day.
Well, no, but it will get made up over the course of the next year.
But if you had that day's takings, you'd have to get extra takings on all other days to make up that lost day's takings.
Which they will. Of course, because if, the very same people will... lovely cup of tea, thanks, Victoria. The very same people that were going to come in to... Why anyone would want to shop on Oxford Street in the first place is a mystery to me, but let's just keep on that street. They're going to come in to buy a little T-shirt and a pair of jeans that cost £5. Never mind about the poor children in India who are strapped to the machines under the cosh... They don't care about that. They just want a pair of jeans that cost £5. They're not going to say, oh, well, because the tubes were closed on that Wednesday, now I will go without for the rest of the year. Of course not. They're just going to go in on another day. It's just rubbish where they pick this number out of the air. This is the amount that we've lost because of this or that incident. It's just nonsense. I wish they'd stop doing it. They sound like silly people when they say that. So, I still don't know who the other strikers were. Anybody got any idea? 0845 6060 973. Whoever they were, they must be very disappointed because the only people that got any publicity were the teachers. And the publicity that surrounded that was that everyone was deeply upset and it's because of the children and their future's going to be ruined because they didn't come in on that one day, and what a load of old rubbish. Every child who didn't have to go to school that day was singing, dancing in the streets they were, if they were allowed to go in the streets, which of course they weren't. So they were mentally cheering inside, while pretending to be glum in their bedrooms that they painted black. Here's a chap who might have the answer. Baker Street. Hello, Malcolm.
Hello.
Yes, Malcolm.
Hi. Yeah, you wanted to know who the other strikers were.
Yes.
So you've got the job centre people.
Really?
Yeah. And you've got the Coast Guards.
The Coast Guards?
Yeah.
I didn't think that they were civil servants.
Yeah, well, they were striking.
What?
They were marching. Yeah, I heard that on the news.
I'm stunned. I thought that Coast Guards, I might be wrong about this. It would be extraordinary, you're absolutely right. But I thought that Coast Guards were volunteers.
They were the ones who were marching today, so...
Is that right?
Yeah,
okay. Well, thanks very much, Malcolm.
My pleasure, Nick. Good luck.
Cheers. 0845 6060 973. The Coast Guards. I thought they did it for nothing. I thought they were just good old types who would get wrenched away from their usual position at the bar whenever some dope overturned his catamaran. Isn't that, aren't they firemen and teachers and, good sorts in Cornwall, who, have a stall at Ye Olde pub, and every time the bell goes, they have to, man the barge, or whatever it is that they use. I don't think they even got paid. Isn't that extraordinary? If that's true, then, I'm stunned.
Maybe they don't get paid, that's why they're striking.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you'd be upset too. Here is Poplar. Hello, Andy.
Hello.
Andy.
I'm afraid we're going back to Madonna and Kylie again.
Okay.
But I did phone up earlier. I was going to throw into it that Madonna isn't just an artist, she's also a very hard-nosed businesswoman.
Yes.
She runs her own record label, she has sort of many irons in the fire of that side of things, and she basically runs her own life, she runs her own business.
Yes, whereas I get the
control of
absolutely
her music career,
and I get the idea that Kylie. Well, I might be wrong about this, but whereas you get the notion that Madonna is in control of her own life, Kylie is just blown from one project to the next as her management team dictate.
Yeah, she has a management team, and they sort of. I mean, I'm sure that she throws things in. This sort of watches her ideas.
Oh yeah.
She wants to do, but I mean, and also, Kylie. I can't say I haven't met Madonna. Kylie is a lovely woman.
I'm sure she is.
She's one of these people who, when she talks to you, you feel like she's actually taking an interest in what you're saying back.
Right. That's a good act. Sometimes I can pull that off.
Well...
Thanks very much, Andy.
Okay.
0845 6060 973. Whereas you don't feel that Madonna is a nice person. Nobody has ever accused Madonna of being a nice person, have they? But that's irrelevant. That's not what we're talking about. It's about the change that you made in the world. And Madonna has significantly changed... well, no, hang on a minute. She's probably made it easier for other women to be strong solo artists in a male-dominated business. Kylie, on the other hand, is just a pink candy floss confection of air on a stick. No offence. 9:15. LBC Travel with Will Gowing.
The M4
I enjoy working with people.
You bet your life I do. We have a How Low auction running at the moment, by the way. It's for a Hewlett-Packard laptop. This is one of these things that has, there's got so much squeezed in it, I can't believe it myself. It's got Intel inside, a giant hard drive, wireless capability. It's got a webcam in there. It also has a DVD drive. You can watch your movies, play your CDs, the whole bit. It's one of these things that would cost you a significant amount of money if you bought one in the shops. We could be posting one up your door for literally pennies. It's a reverse auction. The person with the lowest unique bid wins. To have a go, text LBC plus your bid in pence to 88821. If it was, well, I don't know, let's say £1.01, then it would be LBC 101 to 88821. Bids will cost you £1.50 plus your standard network rate. Lines closed 7 p.m. Friday 25th of April. Bidders must be over 16. See lbc.co.uk for full terms and conditions. Good luck with that. Here is Chiswick. Hello, David.
Hello there. You're no pink candy floss, are you, Nick?
No, I'm not.
No, you're not. Just to put you straight on something, the Coast Guard are a paid body of officials, and they go out like with customs people and so on. The unpaid people are the lifeboat men. They're the heroes.
Right, gotcha. The Coast Guard were complaining. The lifeboat men carry on regardless.
Can't complain, don't get paid. They're purely volunteers, bless them.
I know. Isn't that incredible?
Quite amazing that they just keep turning out. It's staggering.
It is.
But they do, and, and once a year they come out and shake their little cardboard lifeboats, and we all ignore them.
Yeah, we certainly do. In fact, we cross the street to avoid them.
Well, some of us do. Some of us have got the courage to walk on by regardless.
Next time they do it, I shall stick a note in there. I'll put whatever's in my pocket in there.
A note, yes. You do, because they need it, and they really earn it.
They do, yes. Thanks very much for that, David.
Pleasure, cheers.
Right, so it's the Coast Guard that were revolting. Now, those are the people that, every now and again, they'll say, oh, we've just found a boat with £50 million worth of drugs on it. This is a great step forward in our war against drugs. Meanwhile, drugs continue to be available in ever larger numbers at ever cheaper amounts. It's like trying to part the waves to see the bottom of a pool. The water just keeps returning to where you've tried to push it away. Does that make any sense? He's nodding his head.
Yeah, sorry, that's a good analogy. I was just thinking it over.
It's never going to stop, but, it's a living, so they'll carry on doing it, and the people that are selling it, it's also a living to them. Something like, I can't remember what the exact figure is, so I'll make it up, £300 billion a year. I think it's is it not the second biggest business on Earth? Something like that. I think it's only second to agribusiness, food. Might be true. I think it might be bigger than actual medicine. It's on a par. It's huge. And the reason it's huge is because it's illegal. If it were illegal, then they wouldn't be making so much money of it. I mean, look at Helmand Province. Oh, my God, I've started on drugs. Somebody stop me. Look at Helmand Province, for instance. That's where something like 90% of the world's heroin comes from. Our army is there at the moment. And the crop is increasing. If you're living, if the stuff is coming from a country which is being scrutinised as closely as Afghanistan is, and the crop is actually going up with the presence of the British and American armies, I mean, just give up. Just give up. Just stop doing it. You'll never win. War against drugs.
Have you seen the film American Gangster with Denzel Washington?
I don't know. I often watch a film and think, oh, I haven't seen this. Until right at the end, when, the baddie dies, and I think, oh, I have seen this. I've done that, like, a lot. I'll sit through, like, in the bad old days, we used to go to the video shop to rent your movies, and it didn't get, squirted into your house through Sky Sports and, Sky Movies and, all that sort of stuff. That's the actual sound of a movie coming into your house. I would rent a film thinking, oh, that sounds pretty good. You know, you'll read the story on the back, think, oh, yeah, I really fancy that. That'll go down a treat. And then you put it in, and like 2 hours later, you think, hang on a minute, I've seen this. So I've got no idea whether I've seen that film. That was a very long answer to your question. No idea. Why are you asking me?
Well, the reason I ask is simply because in that film, Denzel plays a drug dealer in America.
Well, don't tell us.
And, and basically, he's got a cousin who's out in Vietnam.
Oh, yeah, Nam, yeah.
And that's where he gets all his drugs from.
Right.
In the war-torn areas.
In Nam,
yeah.
A couple of clicks up the Dulong River, something like that.
Exactly.
Who doesn't surf?
I don't surf.
Yeah, that's right. Raj, don't surf. Here is Thurrock. Hello, Greg.
Hello, Nick.
Greg.
All right?
Yes, super, thanks for asking.
Good. Yeah, I was...
Who's Kirsty Allsop, by the way?
Sorry?
Who's Kirsty Allsop?
Pass.
Right.
Why?
Who's Megan Fox?
Nick.
What?
Well, I'm supposed to supply you with information about who people I've never heard of.
Well, you're not doing very well, Greg.
No, I'm doing extremely well, considering I don't know any of them.
Ah, well, you should have said that.
Well, are they celebrities?
I've got no idea. It was that they were on the news. They are apparently the world's most beautiful women.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Never heard of them.
Yeah.
Who are they, Raj?
Yeah.
You keep abreast of all the latest news from Nuts magazine?
I do indeed. I don't really.
I bet you do.
I don't.
I bet you do.
Boys.
Yeah. Anyway, Greg.
You've beaten your head about this earlier on about the Stones and the longevity of their careers, and there's a lot of people that will slag them off and say, oh, you know, they're old men, and...
Yeah, well, they certainly are. It's going to happen to all of us if we're lucky.
Yeah, exactly. But the point is that the rule book hasn't been written yet. You know, in terms of how, you know, years ago in the 60s, you had to be young and vibrant and black, shiny hair.
Yeah.
And,
apart from Bill Haley, the only person who doesn't adhere to this rule that you're about to explain, and which I haven't heard it yet, but I agree with every word you're about to say,
right,
is Bill Haley. Bill Haley was middle-aged. Even as a teenager. I mean, that guy was 50 years old when he first came over here, rocking around the clock.
Yeah, the exception that proved the rule.
Yeah.
And he was always a bit... I never quite got into Bill Haley when I was a kid. I thought, oh, no, he's like your nutty uncle.
Exactly.
But as time progresses, we'll only find out as time goes on. You know, with what artists are capable of doing and whether they should be there. If they sell product, then that's fine.
Yes.
And even if they don't, you know, they still put in a good show.
Well, the thing is, no, you're absolutely right. What you're saying is that this hasn't happened before.
No.
That people who are playing what is considered to be youth music, they haven't been this old before because youth music has only got this old now. I mean, in 100 years' time, we'll be used to 60-year-olds playing what is essentially music for teenagers.
Yeah.
But it's never happened so far, so it seems a bit odd. And you do get the people saying, oh, well, you know, they're 60 years old, why are they still doing it?
Yeah.
Well, what else are you going to do?
Exactly. I mean, Marty Wilde and Jerry and the Pace, they're still out there earning a crust.
Yes.
They still do, and people are going in and watching them, and they've had a night out.
Well, what they've had is a little trip down memory lane. They've regained some of their youth, and that's what a lot of these so-called heritage acts are. I mean, essentially, the Rolling Stones is the world's greatest heritage act.
Yeah, as well as the greatest rock and roll band in the world as well. But
well, of course, I mean, we could sit here all night long discussing that one, Greg.
Well, I suppose we could. You know, I mean, I've got all my favourites, and if ever I met anyone that liked exactly the same range of artists that I like,
you'd marry them.
I'd be terrified, you know, because it's a very, very subjective thing, and it's a highly personalised thing. So you can't always say, "Oh, this is the greatest, and that's the greatest." All this listing rubbish.
Well, that's what men like to do. Men are weird in that respect. We like to compile things and alphabetise them and put them in boxes.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be done. But the people that criticise all this, my answer is, well, how many times have you sold out the Wembley Arena? You know, go and get a life. And the other thing that you were talking about was the 67, 77, 87, and then it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And it isn't happening. Well, it is.
Is it?
But but the structure from which you take all those acts has disappeared. The record industry is flat on its face. There's no A&R men around, and the whole thing's completely different from what it was. And I can guarantee you that in the next 3 months, someone will release an album that you personally will blow your mind away.
You can guarantee that?
I can guarantee it.
Who is it?
The trick is that you've got to go out there and find it. You haven't got the support and the structure to bring it to your home. You see what I'm saying? Years ago, I don't know, Sgt. Pepper would be released with a big fanfare, and everyone, and it would come straight to you, and you say, "Great, I've got to get it. I've heard it, and I want the album."
Yeah.
Now you don't get that. You've got to get out there in all these little.
You have to look up My Face.
Yeah, it's all through the internet, or you've got to trawl through about 5 hours worth of listening in a record store, and that's the problem.
Yes, you might be. I think
I'm absolutely right. And finally,
you're very sure of yourself. You should have your own show, Greg.
Yeah, and the Kylie Madonna. I mean, I'm glad you said it, because Madonna, the voice, she has got the most unremarkable voice.
Yeah, not a great singer.
Useless singer. She's made to my opinion, 1 or 2 very good pop songs. The rest of it, well, maybe. But she's done it despite her voice.
Yes.
But with Kylie Minogue, you've got an army out there who love her. And again, being subjective, I mean, if whatever your opinion is on Kylie, if you're a fan of Kylie Minogue, whatever you say won't make the slightest bit of difference to them.
No, quite right too. Don't listen to me. I don't know anything.
Yeah. I mean, personally, if I've got to make a choice between your opinion and Kylie's fan, I know exactly what I'd go for.
Good man. Thanks very much, Greg. I appreciate your support. 0845 6060 973. If you want to join in, this is LBC 97.3. LBC 97.3. If you want to join in, it's 0845 6060 973. The time, 9:30.
I'm listening, dear. You can talk to me.
Here's a call in Mitcham. Hello, Clifford.
Hello, Nick. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Yeah, I think you forgot the last great revolution, which was hip-hop, rap.
But that coincidentally occurred as punk did here. Hip-hop was happening in... Or no, was it punk or was it the following... when was the message? Was it 80s, 87?
I think, somewhere in the early 80s.
79.
79, okay, right. So as punk was happening here, hip-hop was taking off in America. The Message, Grandmaster Flash, and the one that came before it, which was the thing that really well, I don't know, it didn't start it, but it popularised it, which was the ridiculous thing that just went on forever, the Sugar Hill Gang. I said a hip, hippie to the hippie hip-hop, but don't stop
it's absolutely
rocking.
Wonderful, though. I mean,
I'll bang boogie. Set up, jump the boogie to the rhythm of the boogie to be.
I think you've missed your calling somewhere online there.
Boy.
Yeah. I think that's the last great revolution we've got. I mean, now it's just all marketing now. I mean, it's just basically if you shoot someone or you can sell more records or depending how many girls you can get in the video.
Yes. If you can squeeze a gold-plated Bentley into the frame.
I mean, I've been listening to a guy called Ice-T for God knows how many years, and the guy's still talking about the same things like guns and robberies and pimping. Yeah. And I think to myself, well, shut up, behave yourself. He stars on a top-rated TV show, right? He's probably getting residuals every year or whatever. He stars in SVU. That's spin-off from Law and Order.
Right.
He's probably getting residuals every year for it. He's still talking about guns and gangsters and being a pimp and this and that. I mean,
essentially, it's selling a fantasy of black urban travails.
I wouldn't say it was a fantasy, because, I mean, the people are living like that, and they're still probably living like that.
Yeah, but the people that are singing those things aren't living like that anymore. They're living in gated communes.
Yeah, exactly.
And driving around by limo.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like Snoop Dogg, I mean, he used to love his stuff as well, too, but I mean, even now, it's like, you see the guy now, he's living in Hollywood, he's got his own TV show, reality show, And he's probably getting paid, like, 10 million a time for, a year or something like that from all these different...
Snoopy Dogs on TV?
He's got his own TV show on E.
Right.
He's got his own reality show. You don't keep up, do you?
No, I don't, no. E! Oh, that's not on my favourites.
That is a great,
I very much...
yeah.
I doubt it.
Yeah, yeah. So he's got his own reality show on E.
Yes.
And, but most of them now sort of like have their own reality show, 'cause just sort of like, what they do now.
Right.
All part of the market.
That's where the money is. Yeah, well, that's, I think, You Know Who, started that, though. It's,
Who's You Know Who?
Well, the chap that was famous for a long while for being the leader of an outfit that began,
Run DMC?
No, for the leader
He's
of
got a big TV show. He's got a big reality show on MTV.
No. The chap that really started all of this fly on the wall stuff, let's just go and live with this person and see what happens, was the man who popularised, or who you could say was among the progenitors of heavy metal. In fact, he was in the in the outfit that defined heavy metal in the early days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ozzy Osbourne. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
okay.
I don't know. I don't know. I think I watched like the first one and I just got tired of it, quite frankly.
Well, it was just the same thing.
You talk about like looking at like great TV shows. I can highly recommend The Wire. I've seen every season.
People say that it's absolutely tremendous. Yes,
absolutely incredible.
Well, I'm looking for something good. But I'd have to start at the very beginning, though, wouldn't I?
Be a good idea.
Yeah.
They've got about 500 cast members. How they keep the continuity and the storylines going is just beyond me. They've got 500 cast, predominantly black.
500?
It's about 500 cast members they've got. And the strange thing is that most of the black actors there, well, for the first 2-3 seasons, basically British guys have gone over to America. And they put on an American accent. They do you wouldn't believe that they were the same. I was looking and I think, oh my God, I've seen him before, And they've gone over there and they've done very well for themselves. Like 500 cast members they've got, and it's just absolutely incredible. Incredible show.
Well, okay, I'll have to wait till it comes around again, because...
Oh, no, you can just go buy the first DVD, mate.
I absolutely will not do that, no.
Why not?
Well, because buying a television show on DVD, I can't think of a bigger waste of money. You're only going to watch it once, and then it's just going to collect dust on your shelf.
Get a duster. Oh, sorry, a cleaner.
I didn't think about that. Get a duster. There you go. All right, thanks very much.
Yeah, I used to work with you.
You did not?
Yes, when you were with Gin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you? What did you do?
I was security.
Oh, right. And how did that work out?
Don't do that any longer, no.
Right. Okay.
Anyway.
Well, it's nice to talk to you again.
Hey, nice to talk to you.
Did I ever talk to you?
I don't know, I think it's like past cars or something like that.
Okay.
You look down on me.
I did not. I always get on well with security.
Yeah.
I do. Security and the cleaners. I'm like that with security and the cleaners. Management can't stand me.
Can't stand them, mate.
Thanks very much.
Nice to meet you.
Cheers, Clifford.
Bye.
The cleaners and security. Oh, we get on like a house on fire. Raj, on the other hand...
I'm a people person.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, me too. Yeah.
Cut from the same cloth we
Exactly. So I would be very upset, by the way, going back to the civil servants who were on strike yesterday. I'd be quite upset with this if I went on strike yesterday and nobody noticed, wouldn't you? Because the Coast Guard went on strike. Apart from us mentioning it on this show just now, who even knew that they were on strike? It didn't get a word one in the news, did it?
There might have been a lot of people drowning on the coast who
No, but you see, that's the mistake that I made earlier on. Do you listen to this show? The Coast Guard don't go and save people who are drowning. That's the Royal Lifeboat people. And if you would have to say, if we're looking for heroes... Talking about Sky's Heroes this season, if we're looking for heroes, then people immediately go to, guess which, profession?
Firemen.
Exactly. Always firemen. They're paid. Royal Lifeboat people go out in, well, you could make an argument that their job is actually more dangerous. Because not only are they potentially putting out, dealing with, fires and people in peril, but they're not doing it on solid ground. They're doing it on water. And they're not paid. That's almost the very definition of heroes. In any weather, in any circumstance, to heed the call and launch your boat into dangerous surroundings in conditions that have caused other people's lives to become imperiled. To launch yourself into that circumstance is just, and to do it with no money being offered, this is actually extraordinary. I mean, these are people that aren't recognised at all.
I would say probably that I don't know this for a fact, but I'm guessing most of their call-outs are in bad weather, because in calm weather, you're more likely to get saved by other people who can help you.
Also in calm weather, you're less likely to be in danger in the first place, unless you're that dope who keeps upending his boat every single time he leaves the harbour. I mean, if you were the Royal Lifeboat and you get called out like every 2 hours, like on one day, I think you had to be saved 3 times in one day. I mean, you just want to shoot him. That's maybe why they carry their flare guns, in case they just get really so upset they can't stand it anymore. Anyway, it's 0845 6060 973. Yes, so I would be upset if I took action, went to the trouble of taking a day's strike and no one noticed. Because everybody was very upset with the teachers for whatever reason, and I think perhaps they went a little bit too far in their in their displeasure. Okay, so some people had to take a day off work. That would have been annoying. But really, a child missing one day at school, what's the difference? Even if it is close to their exams. It can do all of the work that would be at school, at home, no difference. But because it's about the children, everybody starts to hyperventilate and get very excited and furious. I mean, I was listening to LBC yesterday, and there were no end of people who were furious about it. Ranting, they were. Not one word about the civil servants who were also striking on the same day. I'd be furious, mortified. I mean, like, what's the point? If you don't show up at work and no one notices, what's the point of you actually being there? Now, there was a couple of things about on the same sort of subject, because the Coast Guard is are the police on the water, right? That's essentially their job, isn't it? To protect the boundaries of the country, to whatever it is that they do. They're essentially water police. They're like the police, but wetter, right? Well, there was an interesting article about police and common sense, which came off the storm of the bowling green. This happened a couple of days ago. It's still being reported today in some of the papers. Police have been accused of heavy-handedness after sending in 7 officers to deal with a group of pensioners who broke into their own bowling green. The members of North Avon Bowling Green in Bradley, near Bristol, had been locked out after rent negotiations with the local council broke down. But after some severed a chain on the gate, word spread quickly, and the pensioners, with a maximum age of 86, mounted an invasion to take a stand and reclaim the turf. However, the police were tipped off and sent 7 officers in 4 patrol cars. They threatened to harass the group of about 50 players during the confrontation on Sunday afternoon. Alan Braxton, 74, a retired printer and former club president, said sending 7 police officers for a bunch of bowling pensioners was ridiculously heavy-handed. What did they expect us to do? Run away? We had to take a stand. It's simply not right that the council are demanding so much money for a vital resource which keeps elderly people active and socialising. And you can joke about bowling all you like, but it's I mean, if you don't get about much and, you can't play tennis, bowling just sounds just like the very thing, doesn't it? Because you're socialising with a purpose. I mean, it's not golf. You don't have to yomp up hill and over dale. It's all flat, There's a reason for you being there. You're not just milling about. You're not just hanging around a street corner, swapping Sanatogen. So there's a purpose for you being there. And it's just like a socialising thing. And they raised their rent by, 25%, something like that. Which is ridiculous, really. I mean, it's not much exercise, but it's a little bit. And you're outside. It's a health-giving thing. It's psychological health as well as the physical. It's just the sort of thing that you'd think that we'd be encouraging, but apparently not. Club spokesman added, "We went in with the intention of taking some photos and playing a game. Suddenly we heard police sirens. There were 4 police cars with 7 officers. They were threatening to make arrests, but we decided we shouldn't put them to the test." Avon and Somerset Police denied that the response was disproportionate. A spokesman said, "Police received reports of a burglary in progress at a community facility in Bredley Stoke. A number of police officers attended. However, upon arrival, it was discovered that there had not been a break-in, so there was no need for any police action. If you had a burglar in your kitchen stabbing your cat, you would not get 7 police officers in 4 patrol cars outside your house instantaneously, would you?" But they showed up for a bunch of old geezers who just wanted to flap their gums at each other while bowling balls across a village green. And there's an article about that, a disproportionate police response to the silliest of little things in their least favourite newspaper, The Mail, today. And I might get into that as we come back. It's 9:45. Elvis, you travel with Will Gowing.
Thank you very much, Nick.
There was, before I get into the police thing, there was an interesting comment by Kelvin Mackenzie in The Sun today about about a plane. Maybe I should do that now, because otherwise I'll forget. Now, I wonder if you remember this. Here it is. Back in January, a British Airways 777 carrying 152 passengers and crew literally fell out of the sky when all of its engines suddenly failed as it came into land at Heathrow. You remember that, right? This also precipitated the concern about the new runway, which is the incoming planes are going to be going over a raised section of the M25. It's raised in the air about 60 feet at the point at which the planes will be going over it. Now, this plane would have smashed straight into it, which wouldn't have been good. So they're concerned about this sort of public safety area, which the government tried to suppress or bury in the report that they gave out about the feasibility of the new runway. Anyway, that's by the by. So you remember that plane? The rather tatty PR machine at BA swung into action, urging journalists to dust down the Captain Courage headlines, and that was pretty much what they did. Journalists, I swear, is there such a thing as investigative journalism anymore? They just swallow whatever line they're given from the public relations department of whatever it is that they're looking into, and they just print what they say verbatim. Because that's what all the papers did at the time, you remember? It was, a tremendously courageous action on behalf of the pilot. He's a hero, and here's a picture of the fella, and let's give this man a badge, all that sort of thing. What nobody did at the time was really to investigate further and say, well, hang on a minute. A plane just fell out of the sky. Why is that then? Because they were too busy swallowing the line that was given by the airline industry, hook, line and sinker, that this was an isolated incident. We don't really know why it happened. Let's not look at it too closely. Let's concentrate on the heroic action of the driver. And have you heard a word since? Has there been one single syllable of explanation as to why this plane fell out of the sky since? Anybody think of any? Not a word. This is Kelvin Mackenzie in The Sun. He says, in truth, had you or I been sitting in the pilot's seat, we would have done an equally good job, as the jetliner was simply out of control, but thankfully had cleared the perimeter fence. An investigation was started immediately. It ruled out the possibility that, although the Gordon Brown entourage was making its way towards Heathrow at the time, the jamming technology which allows the Prime Minister to make secret calls in his car was not responsible for bringing down the plane. What? I didn't know anything about that. That's the first time it's even been that I've read that it was suggested that I had anything to do with it. That's a bit of a worry. I've heard the thing about the jamming technology before. I haven't. So he has jamming technology in his car, and they do tell you to switch off your tiny little mobile phone. So if he's got jamming technology, you'd have to assume that had much greater impact than the waves that are coming out of your tiny little mobile. So that if a plane did fly over it, and that's right, he was there at the time, wasn't he? Then that might cause... Well, I don't know what they think your mobile phone is going to do to the plane's equipment. It seems incredible that companies would be daft enough to build something that flies through the sky that can be brought down by a blooming mobile phone. I mean, good grief. That's just silly, isn't it? Anyway, he continues. Next, the investigation ruled out that there was ice in the fuel lines. It was thought that since the plane had come through semi-Arctic conditions, the fuel could have been frozen. But that was ruled out because, thanks to additives, the fuel could take temperatures down to minus 57 centigrade. And the coldest it got on the trip was minus 45. And if you've ever been in one of those planes that's got those seat-back screens that shows you, where you are, what the speed is, your altitude, and what the outside temperature is, it is always alarmingly cold. I mean, I actually no idea how cold it is up there until I sort of played around on those screens as I was coming back from Thailand. It is about minus 47 outside. Pleasantly warm inside. Well, no wonder they give out a little blanket. It'd be blooming freezing if they didn't. So here we are, he says, more than 3 months later, and still no clue as to why both engines should fail. Shouldn't we be worried? And why is it that other Boeing 777s around the world have not been grounded? As far as I know, it's unique that both engines would fail. Do the spooks know something that we don't? I think we should be told. That's a bit of a worry, isn't it? Because that story seems to have just died. And potentially that story is bigger than anything else that you read in the newspaper today. I mean, if there is some problem with planes that would cause them to lose power completely, well, that's something, first of all, that we should be told. Second of all, that they would want to keep to themselves more than anything else that you can think of. I can remember watching a documentary many years ago, and it was really alarming, and it made me not want to fly ever again. But, after a while you forget about these things and you just carry on regardless. And it was something about the wires that were inside planes that made things work. And there's miles and miles of wiring inside your average plane. I mean, if you ever see one of these programs on the National Geographic Channel about how planes get nailed together, basically everything that's behind the plastic that you see on the inside of the fuselage is just wires. It's just a spaghetti sea of wiring back there. It's incredible. And they're all jostled closely together. Tightly packed they are. And this documentary was saying that the plastic that covers the wires, and I hope that this doesn't upset you too much if you're about to fly shortly, that covers the wires that are inside the planes wears away when it rubs together, which leaves bare wires to spark against each other, which will shut down whatever it is, the information that is being transferred by those wires. And they said that this is such a problem that the airline industry doesn't want to tell you, because to put it right would mean that they would have to take apart every plane that had this wiring in completely and build it back again as a new plane. So the cost would be unimaginable. Essentially, it would require every airline to replace every plane that has this wiring in as new, which would mean that every airline business in the world that is affected by this would go bust instantly, which would mean the collapse of the entire airline industry, which would also, by a domino effect, lead to the collapse of the holiday industry almost overnight, because nobody would be able to get anywhere, which would lead to... And they came up with £44 million at the Chamber of Commerce as the cost of the teacher strike yesterday. Well, can you imagine what that would cost? I mean, that would be probably, if the world wasn't heading towards recession anyway, that would catapult us into it. Nobody would be able to go anywhere.
Surely that could take out a couple of small countries as well that rely on tourism.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Not just small countries. I mean, where would Spain be without tourism? France, or indeed this country? All of those planes that are coming into Heathrow, they're not all business people, especially during the summer months. I would say a giant proportion of them are people that come here who want to get photographed in front of the changing of the guard. And since that documentary, I've heard not one word about it. Now, it might be that they just made it all up. And it could be that there's very few planes that are affected by that. Or it could be that they're just... Because the cost of putting it right is so gigantic that they couldn't absorb it, that it would put them out of business, so they're essentially crossing their fingers and hoping for the best. Happy landings! Hey, Raj, what have we talked about tonight, then, eh?
We spoke about epics,
yes.
Tribe versus tribe,
right.
Food shortages, mislabeled foods, Keith versus Mick, appetizers, the end of the Rolling Stones, groovy dads, reconstituted liquid, falling out of the trees, hypocrisy, wealthy foreigners buying houses.
I thought it was hip-hoprisy.
Oh, very clever. House prices, British films, the Beatles, back catalogues, musical revolutions, Madonna.
Can you put a bit of emotion into this? You sound like a blooming robot.
Oh, sorry. Quantum... I can't read that.
What is it?
Quantum something.
Yes.
But I forget what the word is.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Longevity of pop acts.
Yes.
Cliff Richard, singing with accents.
Oh, Clive's next. LBC.
Running your own business is all about controlling costs.